it, the needle of our car's temperature gauge was rocketing up. As we pulled in, I killed the engine and hopped out. Smoke wafted from the hood. The engine sizzled like bacon. I backed the car up a few feet and found a puddle beneath. Oil. Instantly, I knew what had happened. The head gasket had blown. I groaned. We'd just sunk money into other expensive repairs. Why can't things just work? I grumbled bitterly. Why can't things just stop breaking? Can you relate? Sometimes we avert one crisis, solve one problem, pay off one big bill only to face another. Sometimes those troubles are much bigger than an engine self destructing, an unexpected diagnosis, an untimely death, a terrible loss. In those moments, we yearn for a world less broken, less full of trouble. That world, Jesus promised, is coming, but not yet. In this world, you will have trouble, he reminded his disciples in John 16. But take heart, I have overcome the world. Jesus spoke in that chapter about grave troubles such as a persecution for faith. But such trouble, he taught, would never have the last word for those who hope in him. Troubles small and large may dog our days, but Jesus' promise of a better tomorrow with him encourages us not to let our troubles define our lives today. Thanks be to God for that word today. As always, here on Straight Talk, we remind you, we encourage you to spend time each and every day focused on his word, meditating on his grace and how awesome he is. With that, I open up my microphones. I invite Mr. Shamari Scott, Mr. John Clark, and by way of our virtual studio, Mr. Charles Bush from Health City, Cayman Islands. We are talking today about the Health City Explorers program. For those of you who do not know, Mr. John Clark is, I dare say, the famous principal of John Gray High School. He's not a stranger to our studio. I'd crossed my fingers, because I was like, have I had Mr. John Clark in studio? Am I just confusing the fact that I've interacted with him on a number of occasions? But he has been in studio with me, which means you don't get any Who Your Mama Is segment this afternoon. But he is here to talk about the different programs that his students at John Gray and in their science department interact and share in through the Health City Explorers program and the impact that it's having on them and why he believes it's important. And of course, Mr. Charles Bush and Mr. Shamari Scott here to share some of the details and continue to share the details of these various programs, which they have continued to innovate and roll out through these times to make sure that they're able to offer these programs to the students. So Mr. Shamari, I will turn the microphone over to you first and foremost. This is our third consecutive week speaking about these programs and the offerings at Health City. We've spoken to essentially university level students. We've spoken to the programs offered to primary school age students. And here we are speaking to Mr. John Clark about the impact and the resources offered to our high school students. But for those who may just be hearing us for the first time today, if you could allow them the benefit of just sharing a bit about exactly what the program is and your scope of programs through the Health City Explorers program.
I know Charles is there saying it's healthcare explorers in his mind, right? Because every now and then I say Health City Explorers.
Yes,
well.
I am guilty as charged.
And Charles, always corrects me. It's healthcare explorers.
Okay, so healthcare explorers.
Yes.
I probably have been saying Health City Explorers.
That's okay. Once they know what it is, right?
Yes.
brand recognition. But good evening, Cayman Islands. It's a pleasure to be here. And just like you were saying, Ruth Anna, one of our objectives when we first started Health City was to create medical pathways to get students of all ages to be able to taste medicine, right? And to understand whether or not they want to take a career pathway down this track in regards to healthcare. And if at a young age, persons get excited and understand that they want to go into medicine, then we're able to help them along, whether they then realize that they need their STEM education even more so they start to pay more attention, or parents understand the track they need to be on. You definitely have to start from a young age. And when we actually did the research, we found out that persons who become doctors, nurses within the healthcare field start to look towards that from as young as age 8, 9, 10. So when we first started and we were hitting some of the older students, when we actually did the research, we understood that, you know what, we need to really develop products that are going to be innovative as well as interesting to our younger Caymanian and resident population so that they can start to think about careers in healthcare. And what I would have mentioned previously, last year we would have had 2,000 over 2,400 student interactions throughout our different
Mhm.
products, which was more than the first 5 years combined. And we just wanted to one up it by 30%. And we did remarkably better in that this past school year,
Mhm.
and obviously we're starting a new school year now, we would have done over 4,300 student
Wow.
interactions, which once again surpassed the first 6 years combined
Remarkable
in
numbers.
regards to the interactions we were having. And we have different products such as our on demand videos, which we'll speak about shortly, but our field trips, getting students to come into the facility and
Mhm.
see the facility. We have our day camps, Shadow a Doctor, which is one of our really, really impactful types of programs where students come in and actually shadow a doctor.
Yes.
We have our surf program, which you would have met Miss Zoe Connolly
Yes.
Basdeo,
She was our first,
who
I
was
think
our
our first
first,
discussion.
who actually went through, and that was the first time we actually did it virtually. But
Mhm.
usually, university students who are on a medical track would come in, be able to see a surgery,
Yes.
in the actual operating rooms, get to speak to the various elements of being in a hospital, from marketing
Mhm.
straight through to front of house insurance, and obviously the medical components as well. And we also have our career events and many other products. But one way we were innovating when we first started was to have the on-demand videos, which really depicts from a science perspective certain components of what's happening within a hospital setting.
Mhm.
So Light and Matter was actually one of the on-demand videos we did last year, which was using the diagnostics and showing how light and matter actually relates to a hospital setting and the different positions within a hospital setting, and more or less bringing it to our audience, which would be the children, in an impactful and exciting manner in order to get them excited and to see real life experiences of
An
how you
application.
actually apply science. And because we were innovating from that time, when it came time to have our surf program as an example, or a day camp where students would be in the hospital,
Mhm.
it just took us a little bit longer to put on our thinking caps, whether or not we're still going to offer it. You know what, we've done videos before, can't we do this component virtually, a virtual tour, have a host, speak
Mhm.
to the doctors virtually through Zoom, as well as show surgeries now,
Yes.
online with them. And then they can ask a doctor afterwards questions about it. And we were able to put together these innovative products to still bring healthcare and health city to the classrooms or to living rooms at that point in time,
Yes.
even during COVID, and still achieve the numbers we were able to achieve. So it's our pleasure that we actually have Principal Mr. Clark here
Yes.
with us, from John Gray High School, which that's where I went as well. So
Mhm.
it's a pleasure to have him here with us to speak about how some of the on demand videos actually work within the science setting at John Gray.
And Shamari, like I'm even almost ashamed to say this, but you know what? Time flies while you're having fun. Next year, class of 2001, we are celebrating our 20-year high school anniversary. Like
Wow.
20 years from graduating from John Gray. Shout out to class of 2001. I can't believe it. But
Class of 94. So, I am aging myself.
Class of '89.
Okay, see, so you got a whole set, Mr. John Clark. You are surrounded, both virtually and in the studio, by those who consider John Gray one of our alma maters. So, always a privilege to have you in studio. And I have to. I would be remiss of me not to do a little bit of catching up, because as one of our educators, and given the time that we're in, and all the innovation that has had to take place in learning and such. How have you been? How has the start to the school year been? Like, give us beyond healthcare explorers. How are you and your team at John Gray doing?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me on the show this afternoon, Ms. Rafano. And it's great to be around such a such fantastic alumni from the school and you're inspirational leads. I know you've been back at the school many times just to
Yes.
give talks to the students, which we really, really appreciate. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure.
School's doing really, really well. I mean, I was so proud of our staff and our
Mm-hmm.
students, and I want to say our parents as well during the lockdown. You know, they had to take so much on, and we really accelerated where we were as a school during that period of time, and the teachers embraced everything that we were aiming to do. We were in a really good position. Actually, at the start of the year, no one had heard of Microsoft Teams when we started pushing that around in September at the start of the year, that we were going to use for collaboration and we were going to use for some online meetings just to try and improve our productivity. And we were trying to get the kids more computers so that they can really access some of the exciting new, ways of learning as well. And so many people, especially here in the Caribbean, continue their education online.
Yes.
And there were lots of reasons for us to be involved in that technology at the start. We had a new learning platform we trialed from the year before called Everest. So we were in a good position, but we never would have known how much we needed that. Once March came and it was time for things to shut down here. But we're in a very, very good position now. Coming back to school, we've had lots of support from the department and ministry, and my staff have just, I really want to give them a shout. They've embraced absolutely everything we've asked them to embrace. And, even some of our staff that have been in the system and maybe taught the two of you think, how are they going to deal with this change in technology and these new things in education? But, there's some of the people that have really surprised us and really led the way with innovation. So I am genuinely so proud of them. And the kids are fantastic. They're super resilient. I kind of love the way that technology was being demonized a little bit with young people. Social media was quite a bad thing, and the time they spent on the computers was always about gaming. But this gives us a good opportunity to bring it back about learning as well. And I think many of the adults and parents have got more into their children's world of technology because of this.
Very true.
So it's an interesting time.
Very true. And shout out to the likes of Mr. Samaru and Miss Aldemeyer, who would have, last I was at the school, they were still there.
They still are there. I've just left Dr. Samaru in a meeting, and I saw Mrs. Aldemeyer about 2:45, and she was always asking how I am. And she's exactly one of those members of staff. She said, I've done my Microsoft training at this level. I think we should be opening up this new part for the students. And you know what? Age is nothing in teaching.
It's quite awesome. It's quite awesome. And Mr. Charles, before I want to dive in a little bit with Mr. John Clark about the specifics of how the students at John Gray, especially within the science department, are interacting with the Healthcare Explorers program. But if you could just speak a bit from your perspective, Mr. Charles, about their specific programs, and if you want to add anything to what Shamari had said.
Sure. Well, as it happens, John Gray High School, being the largest public high school in the Cayman Islands, is the largest consumer of our on-demand videos, and has been for the past 3 years since we began offering them. And, we have a wonderful partnership with them. I have, the speed dial to Mr. Williams, the head of the science department there, and it's really a wonderful partnership. And as I would have mentioned last week, our approach is not a top-down approach to say these are the package and whether you want it or not. Our approach is really to speak to the schools one-on-one and say, what is it that you need, and how can we help to serve those needs? So the new videos, for example, that we developed and launched last week, for whether it was for Sir John A. Cumber or at John Gray, were developed in collaboration with the schools, and the timing of the release of them was specifically done to meet the needs of the schools. So, and once again, this year, John Gray is the largest consumer of the videos that we've released already, with over 1,200 views already scheduled among their students, of over over all the videos that we offer. So we're very proud of our partnership with John Gray High School.
Awesome. And thank you for sharing that. And so back to you, Principal John Clark. So, at every level, because of age and where students are in decision making and their decisions about careers, etc., I think the programs impact them and their interaction is quite different. Some of the offerings are slightly different as well. Why, in your opinion, based on what you've seen over the last few years with these Healthcare Explorer programs, now, as we talked about before we came on air, things like the tours in the hospital aren't possible at this time, but they're still very much engaging with the content and the on-demand videos. Why do you think that this partnership and this type of content is important for high school students, and particular students at John Gray High School?
I think very early on, I spoke to you about just
Mhm.
identifying a lack of aspiration for our students when I arrived, and
Mhm.
I think we've made great progress in that field. Staff and great community partnerships like this, world-class partnerships, and I know that's a phrase that I use often, and many
Mhm.
people do, but they are a real world-class organisation. So traditionally, science videos can be quite dry; they can be quite tedious. We've really got contextual learning for our students here. They can access a short, sharp, really up to date live videos where they're recognizing potentially people in there. They know the location. Some of them have been lucky enough to visit the hospital and just seen the quality that exists there from start to finish, from your experience when you walk in through the door to when you leave, to anybody that's working the grounds, to the
Mhm.
doctors, the amazing nursing staff, and the porters, everybody. So it's much more than just a science video that you get there. But for teachers, they're just excellent resources. And we're always trying to bring learning to life.
Mhm.
And this is just a great example of it. I'm pleased because the amount of work that has gone in now at the primary level means that our students are getting a better start before they get to us. We've got a new national curriculum that's been really embedded and slightly disrupted with the COVID lockdown, but it's really being embedded at
Mhm.
primary school. And there's a lead at the ministry, Mr. Stephen Tabois, that's doing great work with the principals and the teachers there, particularly in Key Stage 2, to bring science alive. And these videos reach out to those students. I know you may have spoken about that last week. So they come to us now with a much better experience of science, and that gives my science team, an outstanding team, a real chance to push things on and get the students on track for some really good exam passes. But it's also opening their eyes to just a range of fields. I mean, it's gone a lot further than just about being a doctor or a nurse now in the medical profession.
Yes.
Mr. Scott and I were talking earlier, and just the number of professions within the medical industry that are being created on a daily basis, just jobs that didn't exist 5 years ago, 5 months ago, even now.
Absolutely.
So it's an exciting time for students, and I just think it really brings that whole field alive for them. It helps them get through their exams. It gives a different medium there for them to learn through. And the feedback's just been very, very positive.
Awesome. And this is something that consistently excites me. Where my curiosity lies, to be honest, is with now this being going on 7 years, the Healthcare Explorers program being, going into its 7th year. And as Mr. John Clark said, they're starting earlier, which puts them at a completely different footing by the time they start to interact with the content that's produced for them at high school. And so you may, I guess, based on that time frame, you might just start to be, you may just start to see the first set of students who would have had several years of exposure in the primary school level, and then coming into high school and interacting with it, at a different level. And I have a curiosity to see how this starts the trickle down or up, depending on how you look at it, effect of the decision making for careers and choices in toward the healthcare industry. I feel fortunate that I've had the privilege of seeing, and interviewing on Medical Monday some of the students who have been impacted already through these programs and switched gears, thought they wanted careers in automotive and turned to the medical field and such, which to me is, helping people find their passion is something super exciting. And, I know that from any conversations with you, Shamari, in relation to what Health City's intentions are, and you may want to touch on this briefly, Mr. Charles, before we go out to the break as well. But from the inception, of and even the initial discussions about Health City, the goal has always been to help feed into the healthcare industry and bring Caymanians into the healthcare industry. And you've made it quite clear, Shamari, that great if they end up within the Health City organization, but it's really just about planting the seed, and for those who are meant to find their way into healthcare, will do that based on, I guess you guys are on a different side. You're on but you data collect and you see, all the information from all the schools. And I've asked this to you before, but I think it's important to continue to repeat this information. Do you see where these programs are starting to impact the decisions of students who may not have otherwise considered a profession in the
Yes.
healthcare industry before? So I'd like perspective from both Shamari and Mr. Charles,
Ye-
and then we'll go to our first break.
Yes, we are seeing that because, as Mr. Clark said, now the year sevens that are joining school now would have had the year sevens that joined high school this year would
Mhm.
have now had 2 years of exposure to healthcare stores um, um, products. And what we saw last year was that students at the that would have visited our various booths were more on point in terms of what they were asking about. So they already had some idea at that point what they might want to do, whereas that was not the case. Um, let's say 3 years ago.
Mm.
We would have had to do
Awesome.
a bit more education 3 years ago, but now we're seeing when they come to our booths, for example, they have their ideas are a bit more shaped.
That's excellent. And any feedback from you, Shamari?
No, no, definitely. And I mean, it's one thing to have statistics, which eventually, as you get more persons taking medical pathways, the statistics will start to speak for themselves. But when you have real life examples,
Mhm.
right? Like a Zoe who's talking about how we helped her, even though she might have already been on that track.
Yes.
When you have a Nathan McCoy
Mhm.
who was more going towards the aeronautical track, came in, saw a surgery,
Mhm.
albeit for 10 hours, right? Because he was so interested. And he's like, that's what I want to do. I want to save lives. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, he made sure that he got his grades and got all these scholarships. And he's off on a pre med track to come back to be involved. He hasn't specifically decided what he wants to do, but you
Right.
know that he was very excited about cardiology and cardiothoracic
Mhm.
based on getting to see Dr. Benoit perform surgeries. And it was also based on Dr. Benoit going to speak at a school that he said, that's
Mhm.
something I may want to do. And then he heard about the kids from Haiti that we were helping and
Yes.
came through to help impact, I think 345 it was, to help with some of the kids, and
Mhm.
saw the little thin line and asked what it was. And it was the fact that the kid, the child wasn't necessarily going to make it, and we were able to save a life. And then he's like, all right, and there's a product now that he can go and see a surgery. And then that was it. And that's a
Yes.
real life example
Yes.
that otherwise he probably wouldn't be on that track. You have in Elman, who works with us, who
Mhm.
went through 5 different products,
Yes.
came through, did shadow a doctor. First was a field trip, then shadow a doctor, then a day camp, then got an internship, then
Mhm.
started to work with us, albeit at the, I think it was front desk, and then porter. And then once he outlined the fact that he was then interested in nursing, because he at the time, and he mentioned he
Mhm.
thought it was only females
Mhm.
in nursing, then
Yes.
saw that there were also males,
Yes.
and then went on a track to actually go through nursing, and now has a scholarship from Health City to fulfill his dream. And once again, hopefully he'll come back to Health City. But if not, we then have a real life example of somebody who's been through all of our products, who is now going on to get
Yeah.
involved in nursing. And we have many more examples of that. But that's when you know it's working, when you have those real life examples. And as I
Absolutely.
mentioned, the next 5, 10, 15 years, when we have a plethora of people in various areas of healthcare, we'll know that we were successful.
Absolutely. And we are going out to our first break of our time together. It is now 5:34 on the Star 92.7 clock. When we're going out for a little 2-minute break, and then we're going to come back and continue this conversation. I have more questions for Mr. John Clark. I know I'm going to ask him some questions that he's going to have to speak on behalf of some of his teachers, because I'm curious to see what they are saying about the impact of this on their students. But keep it locked for some more Medical Monday brought to you by our partners at Health City Cayman Islands. We'll be right back after this break on Star 92.7.
Join the conversation. The phone lines are now open. 943-3700. You can also find us on Facebook or email us at straighttalkci@gmail.
Yeah, I heard he got that hot new thing. It's called Switch to Flow now and keep your number.
Oh, you just gonna stand there, huh?
Switch your prepaid number and get 5 gigs of data valid for 30 days. Or switch to postpaid and get your first month free on us. Flow is giving you so much more. What are you waiting for? Make the switch now. Visit any one of our retail stores to sign up now. Call 747-5050 or visit discoverflow.ky/switch. Flow, you deserve to be on the biggest and fastest network.
Reintroducing an old favorite and the only local family dining experience in Cayman. Champion House 2 have joined forces with the local eatery and is now open with a diverse food and adult beverage offering. Join us during the week for our buffet breakfast or lunch, or de-stress weekends on Fridays from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. and Saturdays until 12 a.m. Music to keep you entertained, catering services to suit any budget. Let the local eatery at Champion House 2 cater to you by calling 916-5736 or 329-5550, or place your order via Island Grub or the Let's Eat app today.
At last, it's back to school time at Office Supply. Kids can win big, parents can save more. You'll save 10, 15, or 20% off your purchase, depending on how much you spend. Get geared up with scientific calculators from $2.95, 11-piece math set with 2-in-1 compass from $3.95, composition books starting at 99 cents, and much, much more. Your safety is very important to us, so pre-order and we'll shop for you. And enter to win our back-to-school drawings, including a chance to win one of 2 laptops or printers. Office Supply, widest selection, lowest prices. Place your order today. Email b2s@officesupply.ky or call 946-1200 today.
Have you checked out the Island Heritage Insurance website? They have upgraded their online payment options to make it easier for you to get a quote, make a claim, and renew your policy. Log on to islandheritageinsurance.com. Island Heritage Insurance is also here for you this hurricane season with helpful tips from their Hurricane Handbook. Just log on to islandheritageinsurance.com/hurricane.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Ruth Anna on Star 927.
I watch YouTube about the healthcare.
Founded in 2014 by Dr. Devi Shetty, Healthcare Explorers is the award-winning education arm of Health City Cayman Islands, which has provided more than 6,000 education opportunities to Cayman students.
Healthcare Explorers has been a phenomenal addition to our science program here at Sir John A. Cumber Primary School. Students have really been engaged in the fact that they have opportunities to, one, go to Health City to see what the medical field looks like, but it's a very real life opportunity where students get to see what impact science has in the day-to-day life of human beings on a whole. So we've used the field trip day where they get to go to Health City. They are introduced to doctors, they're introduced to nurses, people within labs. We're also using the online resource with the YouTube videos. That's a huge hit, especially in lower key stage 2.
We're going to be looking at life, matter, and radiology. Here, explain a bit about the machine behind you.
I watch YouTube about the Healthcare Explorers. Also, I liked when they were rotating the heart.
We learned more than what our teacher would tell us in class, which was really fun.
For our science department, and Mr. Godfrey's been, instrumental at linking up Mr. Bush at Health City and making sure that we've got great opportunities for our students. Okay, so most recently there's a series of videos which really bring science, and especially science linked to the body and medical profession, really to life for our students in class. We've probably exposed about between 500 and 600 students in year 9, 10, 11 to those videos in class. And then they have opportunities to access themselves out of school as well, which is great.
Well, I was about 14, 15 when I first came in with John Gray for Healthcare Explorers. And after that, I came about a year later, I came in for Shadow the Doctor. And another 2 years after that, I came in for the SURF program. And now I'm working here in Health City. It helped me understand the medical field a bit more.
I shadowed Dr. Savid in neurology, and I saw a lot of the surgeries that he did, a whole range of surgeries, spinal surgeries, brain surgeries, almost anything you can think of. It was an amazing experience.
Working as a marketing intern at Health City has shaped my opinions and how I would like to be in the future. For example, I didn't know what marketing was about.
Oh, surf was amazing because I did so well on my paper. I was able to go to India the following summer. And when I was applying for my bachelor's, that was actually a very important process for me. I was able to talk about that in my interviews, and that experience, I can proudly say that no one else that was in my cohort had that experience. So for me, when I went to university, that really put me above the others, and that allowed me to stand out. And through SURF, I did a lot of research, which in my bachelor's, which is in public health, research is very important. And I already had like that great foundation through SURF, so that really allowed me to excel in those classes as well.
My next step is becoming a nurse. And I'm currently going to enroll into UCCI in their nursing program.
Health City is amazing to help you learn. The doctors, the nurses, the physical therapists, everyone is so willing to teach you. And it's something I really, really like about coming here.
I'm studying the level one into HVAC technician course at UCCI, and after this first course, I'd like to further my education to do the level 2 and then the level 3.
I started as a trainee. I came in without any qualifications for this, so I didn't know anything. I then learned, and now I did online courses here in the hospital. The plan is to go away off island this year to sit an exam. And once I come back, I'm qualified as an actual CSSD technician. I could work anywhere around in the world.
I became an apprentice through the NWDA, which is now called WORK. I spoke to my mentor there, Miss Priscilla. She assisted and helped me fill the documents and so forth. I started out my apprenticeship here at Health City as a medical secretary. And then I found out about, the international department. And I grew interest in joining the international department team.
Healthcare Explorers continues to grow from strength to strength. Innovation is the core of our success. For 2 consecutive years, we have exceeded the totals of our first 4 years. From 2018 to 2020, we have encountered 338% the number of students we did from 2014 to 2017.
This is just the beginning, and the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
All right. And so for those of you watching on YouTube on the Star 92.7 channel, you would have gotten to see the video. For those of you listening on the radio, you would have gotten to hear the audio. But basically a video highlighting what I consider to be a kind of start to finish, showing the full circle impact of these programs. Like I got goosebumps listening and watching because in part because I've seen some of them come into the studio, and I've heard bits of their stories, and you're reminded about that light in their eye when they come and tell you about their experience and how they've gotten to this place and what led to their decision, just the impact that these programs have had, which I think is quite incredible. For those of you just tuning in, I am going to go to the phone lines as well very shortly. We are talking about the Healthcare Explorers programs that are brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. 943-3700 is the line in studio. You can also WhatsApp me at 324-1565 or email me at straighttalkci@gmail.com. But we have had a caller holding through the length of the video, so let me see if they're still with us. Welcome to Straight Talk. What's on your mind today?
Good evening to you, Family Young.
Good
And to
evening.
your guest, Mr. Shamari.
Good evening. How are you?
Not too bad. Is Shamari still there?
Yes, he is.
Okay. I firstly want to say thank you to Health City for keeping their promises about being committed to Cayman, not only as a healthcare facility, but to investment in Caymanians. That means a lot to me as a Caymanian. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Just like you said, I kind of had cold chills listening to that. But what I really called about,
And thank you for holding, by the way. I know you were holding through the length of the video.
It's totally understandable. I just want to ask Shamari one question. It's kind of like when you're in the hands of a doctor and how comfortable you feel. How does Shamari feel? There's 2.1 seconds left on the clock and the ball is in AD's hand. Do you feel good or do you feel bad?
You're talking about me personally?
Yes, you personally.
You're nervous, but the fact that the ball is in your hand means that they trust you to have the ball in your hands, and you should have the confidence to take that shot.
Okay, well, that kind of reminds me of Health City, doesn't it? And we see the success last night, so I'll say no more. Thank you so much for your time. God bless. Have a good evening.
So you see, he had to get in the fact that even though my day started off a little bit bleak based on the beating that the Miami Dolphins got, our other team, the Lakers, last night, under by 1 with 2.1 seconds left. There was a perfectly drawn up plan. LeBron, now that he's on our team, I have to like him, not necessarily love him, but I have to like him. Played the decoy, and based on teamwork, Anthony Davis curled around the top. They were stuck on LeBron, wide open shot, trusted the young man to take the shot. And all of that repetition and preparation put him in the position that he was able to score the shot to win the game for the LA Lakers with 0 seconds left on the clock. And I think I recognize that voice, and obviously based on the question, what the MLA was actually
from Georgetown
Central was alluding to is that Health City not only obviously prepare our staff to be in the best possible situation to give you the best results, but we are envisioning where we want to be. And he would know, because he played basketball previously, that coach would tell you that you have to see yourself making that shot over and over and over again in your mind's eye and have repetition in order that when you're in that position, you will make it.
Yes.
It's the same thing we're doing now with our students, that we're able to show them what being successful in the medical field looks like with persons who are right in front of them that can touch and feel them. And if they actually understood some of our top doctors who are the top in the world, some of the stories of where they came from. And we need to do more of that storytelling so that they can understand that this is within reach of anybody from any walk of life. And I guess goosebumps when I speak to some of our doctors talking about where they came from and the opportunities that may not be anywhere near as plentiful as the opportunities we can have here in the Cayman Islands, that anybody from any walk of life can actually make it. And when you speak to Dr. Shetty, one thing he told me a long time ago, he was like, Shamari, if I had a choice of helping a doctor who comes from a background, whether it's middle class or otherwise, I don't want to help them as much as the doctor that comes from a place, or the child that comes from a place without means. And I was like, really? Why do you say that? He said, because the child that comes from a village or from a lower socioeconomic background, the impact we're going to make on that child when they become a doctor, they carry the entire village with them. They make sure that that village never goes without in the future. You take somebody, and there are obviously people who give back from higher
Yeah.
socioeconomic levels, and you need to give them a hospital. You need to give them all of these positions to make them satisfied.
Yeah.
You take enough people from a lower socioeconomic level, and guess what? I never have to worry about that village again. And
Mm.
that's how you make an everlasting impact.
Wow.
And if we can touch children from areas that otherwise don't believe they can achieve, when they do achieve, they're going to change it for the rest of those children that are coming up, and we can all rest on each other to make the Cayman Islands that much better. And it's those types of conversations that you have with Dr. Shetty that you realize you buy into his vision. And when he said, and I was like, Dr. Shetty, how are you able to get persons who are like the best of in their field? And he said, Shamari, when you have a vision and you're doing great things, I never have to ask anybody who's great to come join me.
Wow.
We find each other and we
Mm.
stay together for many, many years to come. So I thank the member for calling in,
Yes.
because that then allowed me to also talk about the fact that what we're doing is going to impact across every aspect of Cayman. And when we get some of those kids seeing these doctors in person and realizing that if through the help of a Miss Shakina Bush through primary school and the help of Mr. John Clark with Mr. Godfrey Williams in John Gray High School, they can achieve, they will achieve, and come back and do great things for our society.
Oh dear. Okay.
clap back,
Yes. Like I wish I knew how to cue up the round of applause background noise. I'm gonna have to get Mr. Renegade to teach me that one. But that is all too true, Shamari. And now you make me feel like, whenever does Dr. Shetty come on? I mean, I don't know how much right now, but like, does he come on?
Yeah, he comes. He usually would visit every year, and it's interesting that you should say that, because he's not able to come this year. We're actually putting together a video that we'll be able to play for the entire Cayman Islands that we're putting it together right now, with him just stating, I usually would come every year. Obviously, this year I'm not able to come, but I'm still here with you as I've always been, and how excited he is about this program, which is near and dear to his heart,
Yes.
because this is the impact he wants to make. And he said, if we have to continually depending on overseas medical professionals to come in, then we failed. In 15, 20 years, this country should be teeming with medical professionals born and bred in the Cayman Islands. And that's what success looks like. And that's what sustainability actually is. And based on all of the statistics, in 20 years, we're going to have such a gap in regards to medical professionals that eventually you're not going to be able to get persons coming from other countries to come in. You need to make sure you have your own.
You have your own.
And obviously with technology, that'll be able to help us in the future as well. But that's part of his dream, and we're helping to make it a reality right now.
That's a very important point. And just before I turn to Principal John Clark, when you said, Dr. Shetty basically said, when you have a vision, people find each other versus him having to go to search them out. And I said in my head, okay, so that's how he convinced people to come to the middle of nowhere where there was no health city and leave their great professions and their established
That's
practices
exactly it.
back in India
They
to
believe in the vision.
Mhm.
And when Dr. Shetty says, this is what it looks like, and people have called him a crazy man.
and all it
before,
is a vision.
and all it is a vision. But they've been a part of Dr. Shetty's vision in India, and they've seen it from where it's gone and to where it is. And they're like, listen, if he says this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to be. And he has asked me to go there. I'm going to take the leap of faith, and I'm going to go because it's Dr. Shetty.
And I have to something. I just remembered something that I almost forgot to share with you. So I went to school in Miami, and I had a very unexpected call. The middle of last week, actually, I see a video call coming in on my phone. Good friend of mine, but the video comes up and it's a face I don't recognize. Anyways, it's his sister who is planning for retirement, right? And so I hear my friend's voice in the background. He's like, "Oh, this is my sister so and so. I need you to tell my sister about two things: no taxes and this place you have called Health City." Like literally, this call out of the middle of nowhere. They live in Broward County. I didn't even to be honest, I've never actually had a conversation with him about Health City, but that was, and so I had a whole conversation with his, sister who is looking at her house in Florida is now paid off. And so she's looking to, not pay property taxes and
Right.
sensible decisions about retirement. And she wanted to know about two things. How does she own a home and how does she stay good to quality health care and retire in the sun? And so we had that whole conversation in the middle of last week, actually. I forget. But to you, Principal John Clark. So from your teacher's perspective, we've heard the videos, we've talked a bit about why you believe this is important for the students. We've seen through that video how it's impacting some of the students full circle. What is the feedback from your teachers? What's happening within your schools when your students are watching the on-demand videos? They're going and, in the context of previous years' experiences, being able to go do the Health City tours. But what is the feedback from your teachers about the impact of these programs on their students? Because, of course, they're the day-to-day interaction with them in the classroom and within the science department.
I mean, the students are exposed to so many things now. They need a hook in their learning. And if I use the fishing analogy that everyone loves here so much, they need that hook. You need that hook to get them into lessons and into learning. And these videos just provide that hook in class. And I think something that we didn't mention really is just how much they're geared towards our curriculum. Normally you have to cherry pick from a range of resources to try and pick a video that might just show the heart, but it might be at the wrong level. It might be too soft, might be too easy. It might be too hard. It might be at doctorate level. So you have to kind of pick those. The work that Mr. Bush and the team have done there has really, really been to put bespoke courses together that are really geared towards the primary school students and then the high school students with what they need. And teachers really, really appreciate that. So, every video that's available there covers a key component of our syllabus. And, there's a range of stuff there for Key Stage 3, our younger students, so the more general scientific work, but there's also the quite bespoke exam work. And just learning from a textbook or going online is just not enough. The videos give the students a different perspective. They give the teachers an opportunity to show them real context in learning. This is science in action at the very best. Again, in a world-class organization. So what better learning experience for the students? And when we did get the opportunity to take students out on field trips, they were just fascinated. We tend to Bridget, it's ridiculous on this island how few students go to the other end of the island. So it's always something I've made as a priority that our students from West Bay need to visit the East End and not be worried about someone's going to recognize them down there. It's good. We're one island here and we have our differences, our beautiful differences, but everybody's here together. And just to see the other end of the island, visit a few places, but going to Health City and just be exposed to that level of competence and expertise, from the moment you go in there. And then, as you heard from some of the individual students that have come through the system from our school as well there, that's then that inspiration. That's what makes you go back and study at home. It's not enough for students just to be told to do homework. They never really learn well. They have to have an interest in the subject. They have to want to do it for them, not just because it's not the teacher's homework, it's their homework. So when we can have these videos, you can do a flipped classroom situation. So whatever they've done in class, they could then just go over back at home. Or for some of our students, it can be there for parents. If they know that their child's interested in science, they can just reach out and get these videos at any time. And Mr. Bush is always, welcoming contact from parents directly as well, which we appreciate as well.
And one thing I'll say to you, Mr. Charles Bush, that I've picked up from both this interview with Mr. John Clark and Shakina, you clearly make yourself readily available to these educators to ensure that you are doing your part to ensure that the students involved in these programs and educators and parents and everybody involved gets everything they need. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for clearly doing whatever it takes is what I'm getting from both Mr. John Clark and having Ms. Shakina Bush on last week. But we are a few minutes shy of 6 o'clock, so I'd like to do a quick kind of round robin, get each of you gentlemen to share your final thoughts. And Mr. Charles, if you could share final thoughts, and then on to you, Mr. John Clark, and you, Mr. Shamari Scott, before we close out the show. So final thoughts from you, Mr. Charles.
Final thought for me is, what an honor it has been for the past 6 years to work with John Gray High School. And, you are right. the administrators, the teachers, they have, my cell number. And they know that I'm available to them, and they know that we care very deeply. So we are very proud of this partnership, and we look forward to another 6 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Charles. Final thoughts from you, or reminders, anything from you, Principal Clark?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to talk here and just show our appreciation to the team at Health City and Mr. Scott, Mr. Bush, and the whole team there for what they do for the children. It's very easy. Many people want to partner with schools. Many people want to do things for young people, but actually seeing it through to this level is exceptional. It's exceptional in any area, but the opportunities the students have in Cayman here are second to none in the world. They really are. And this is one fantastic community initiative. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Principal Clark. And final thoughts from you, Mr. Shamari Scott, this afternoon.
No, just a huge thank you to everybody, to Mr. John Clark for being such a willing participant to allow for the on-demand videos, allow for bringing his students to us for tours and the such to help. It's that partnership, it's that hand in glove that's going to help to make the connections. And we can't do it without them. And obviously they need partners like us, and we're more than willing to do it. And a huge thank you, as always, to Charles, who is the backbone of that program, who lives, sleeps, and eats Healthcare Explorers. And, to the team. At the end of the day, if the physicians and nurses and technicians didn't truly believe in helping and giving up their time in order to make sure that we can put together these videos, and it takes a lot of time to put together the videos, and they're always going above and beyond, even with busy schedules, to make sure that we're able to not only fit it in, but make this one of the core components of what we're doing at Health City. And that comes from the top down, Dr. Devi Shetty, straight to Dr. Benoit, who's in charge. And then obviously when I sit in planning sessions, making sure that these medical pathways are one of the top objectives that we have. And once again, you can't manage what you don't measure. So having the goals, setting targets, and making sure that you're achieving quality as well as the targets, and we're blowing it out of the water every year. We look to continue to do it moving forward. And when you see the Elmans, and when you see the Dwights, and when you see the Zoes of the world, that's when you know you've done a great job. And once, even if we were able to touch 5, it would have been worth it. But we know we're touching hundreds and shortly thousands, and it's just very rewarding to be a part of an organization that allows us to be able to continue to do this type of work.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. That brings us to the end of our Medical Monday, brought to you by our partners at Health City Cayman Islands. I'll be back again next Monday for what I believe is my final Monday hosting Medical Monday here on Star 92.7. So please drive safely, guys, and I will be back, and I'll talk to you once again next Monday right here on Star 92.7.
Connect to the culture.